Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. The Royal Navy, trained from the lake, comprised of 9 individuals. Before being incorporated into the Beijing fleet in 1894, they had never seen the sea. It's easy to imagine the disastrous role these trainee managers from the 8 banners, who participated in the Battle of Jiawu, played in the combat. For modern Chinese naval history, both Fujian Naval Academy and Tianjin Naval School were renowned formal institutions. In late Qing Beijing, there existed a place called the Kunming Lake Naval School, directly under the Qing Dynasty's naval ministry, divided into an internal and an external school. The internal school, located in Qing Garden, later renamed the Summer Palace, had 103 classrooms. The external school, situated between Qing Garden and Yujing Mountain on the east side of the high-level lake, had 119 classrooms. Since the enrolled students had to be Manchu banner men, of a noble blood, it was known as the Royal Naval Academy of the Qing Dynasty. Obviously, Kunming Lake Naval School, as a central institution, should have been more competitive than local institutions like Fujian Naval Academy and Tianjin Naval School. Unfortunately, from its inception, there were some impure motives, and it barely lasted for 8 years, from January 1887 to March 1895, training only 1 batch of students before hastily closing. The founder of Kunming Lake Naval School was Prince Chun, a naval minister of the Qing Dynasty. This biological father of Emperor Guangxu, after reviewing the preliminary construction of the Beiyang fleet in 1886, submitted a memorial to Empress Dowager Cixi, the de facto ruler of the Qing Empire at that time, hoping to revive the Manchu bannermen's naval training, establish a naval school, cultivate naval talents, and regain control of the future Qing Navy from Han Chinese hands, since Li Hongzhang's Beiyang fleet was predominantly composed of Han Chinese officers and sailors. But training naval forces in a lake was already absurd, let alone doing so in Kunming Lake, a garden lake. It was simply ridiculous. Although Chun knew what modern navies looked like, he still decided to go ahead with it. As the biological father of Emperor Guangxu, Prince Chun was busy pleasing Empress Dowager Cixi to ensure a smooth transition of power to his son becoming the true emperor. His core method was to please Cixi and achieve a smooth transfer of the empire's highest power. But actions require support. To gain support for such a seemingly absurd idea, he needed to provide reasonable explanations. Chun sought support from 3 parties, Empress Dowager Cixi, Li Hongzhang, and the financial supervision group led by Wang Tonghe. Thus, historical records also include 3 explanations he provided. First, the explanation to Empress Dowager Cixi: the purpose was to secretly renovate while appearing to train troops, actually improving the garden. Since Kunming Lake was within Qing Garden, naval training inside required the construction of Kunming Lake Naval School, internally and externally. Furthermore, the Empress Dowager and Emperor would frequently inspect the naval training there, naturally needing a place to rest, so the substantial renovation of Qing Garden, which had become ruins, was also reasonable. Cixi wanted to renovate the garden without attracting too much attention, so she readily approved Chun's request. After the proposal was approved, Chun immediately submitted another memorial, stating that the buildings around the lake were already collapsing and must be slightly repaired to accommodate the Empress Dowager and Emperor's inspection of the naval exercises. The so-called slight repair was just rhetoric. In reality, it was a complete renovation. As for the expenses, since it was for inspecting the naval exercises, funds naturally came from the naval ministry. After this extensive renovation, Qing Garden became the famous Summer Palace. The explanation to Li Hongzhang was different. The main purpose was not to train qualified naval personnel at Kunming Lake but to change the political atmosphere of Beijing and elevate the political status of the navy. He was clear in his letter to Li Hongzhang that the Manchu bannermen and noble children were unwilling to participate in naval affairs. Moreover, the new navy was an awkward outsider in the Qing court, viewed with suspicion by the courtiers. A British journalist extensively reported on the Sino-Japanese War of 1894 to 1895. In his post-war publication, Naval and Land Operations of the Chinese-Japanese War, he described the awkward situation of the Beiyang fleet within the Qing court, stating, "The Qing Empire's navy was modeled after the American style. Naval officers constituted a new class and were not respected. In terms of education and practical knowledge, they were far superior to Chinese officials. However, in the eyes of the Chinese officials, they were outsiders, tolerated only because naval defense required a navy." In summary, Chun believed that training naval forces in Kunming Lake, with occasional inspections by Empress Dowager Cixi and Emperor Guangxu, would help elevate the navy's status and improve naval construction. Lastly, the explanation to Wang Tonghe and the Financial Supervision Group. Chun proposed building a miniature summer palace instead of the grand Qingda mountain resort-style gardens to please Cixi and facilitate a smooth transition of power to Emperor Guangxu. Although Chun once led the request for Cixi to continue the regency after Emperor Guangxu came of age, deep down he still hoped for a regular transfer of power to the emperor. After all, although Emperor Guangxu was a descendant of Emperor Xianfeng, he was also Chun's biological son. Chun hoped that after the summer palace was completed, Cixi would spend more time there, away from the political center as much as possible. He made Wang Tonghe and others understand his difficulties. These three explanations demonstrate Chun's political acumen. Regarding naval construction itself, training naval forces in Kunming Lake was indeed absurd, but Chun gave this endeavor additional purposes: Cixi's regency and naval revitalization. These purposes were not contradictory. In other words, his explanations to Cixi, Li Hongzhang, and Wang Tonghe were all true, he just chose different truths for different people. Unfortunately, none of Chun's goals were achieved. The magnificent summer palace, intended as a retirement gift for Cixi from Chun and Emperor Guangxu, ended up as an apparently endless garden renovation project. This meant that courtiers could not persuade Cixi to transfer power. By the time Chun passed away in 1891, the Qing naval forces had not received significant development opportunities. Modern historians remark that Kunming Lake Naval School did not live up to its name as the Royal Naval Academy. By the late Qing Dynasty, the Manchu bannermen had lost their former prowess. Relying on their lineage for positions, they were more interested in birds than swords. Among the initial 60 students enrolled in Kunming Lake Naval School, few were from prominent Manchu bannermen families. Instead, most came from the Manchu ranks in the healthy camp on Beijing's western hills. 40% of students dropped out early, and out of the 36 who took the exams, only 24 passed. By the 19th year of Emperor Guangxu's reign, 1893, only 9 officially graduated and joined the navy. These 9 individuals, trained from the lake, had never seen the sea before being incorporated into the Beiyang fleet in 1894. Their effectiveness in battle during the Battle of Jiawu, where they served as trainee managers, can be imagined. While Kunming Lake Naval School trained limited naval personnel, it made a substantial contribution to Empress Dowager Cixi's renovation of the summer palace. A substantial portion of the annual naval budget, totaling 300,000 taels of silver, was allocated under the guise of Kunming Lake Naval School's expenses. The Naval Ministry also painstakingly raised funds for the Summer Palace's reconstruction under various names such as naval defense donations, approved or tacitly permitted by Prince Chun, amounting to over 7 million taels of silver. As the father of Emperor Guangxu, Prince Chun, in his efforts to ensure his son's ascension to the throne, focused on pleasing Empress Dowager Cixi to achieve a smooth transfer of the empire's highest power. The Summer Palace was Chun and Emperor Guangxu's gift to Cixi for her retirement, while Kunming Lake Naval School served more as a cover for diverting naval funds. Meanwhile, the funds for the construction of the Beiyang fleet dwindled, stagnating after 1889. In February 1895, the Beiyang fleet was completely defeated in the Sino-Japanese War of 1894 to 1895. A month later, the Qing government disbanded the naval ministry, and Kunming Lake Naval School was also abolished. The Royal Naval Academy of the Qing Dynasty ended as a farce, and Kunming Lake returned to tranquility. The only legacy left was the lavish garden that had consumed vast resources. This is History and Culture channel. Like and subscribe are the biggest help and support for us. Thank you everyone. See you next time.